It's time for good energy, and I'm Dr. Julie, and welcome to Bodyful Day 229. We are talking about bloating in the senses. We're talking about the vestibular sense, and today is day 6 of bloating in the senses, and we have to be talking about it on Halloween. So today we're going to talk about how changes in gravity and changes in position can affect or be good energy in to bloating. Let's start with our basics. Let's go ahead and take a deep breath in and release. You're going to take a deep breath in, and then this breath expand in the belly, expand in the chest, and expand in the sinuses, and tuck your tailbone under. Take a deep breath in and release. And because it's Halloween and we're talking about bloating, I want you to think back to the very first time you had too much candy and what your belly felt like. And you are going to breathe into that. Let's take a deep breath in and release. All right, so here we are on day 6 of bloating in the senses. And remember, our goal through all of these is to look at how the senses can provide you with energy to have a non-bloating belly or energy to have a healing gut, because it's going to provide good energy, and or also but looking at your senses because they can be stressors. So energy to have a non-bloated gut or a healthy gut equals good energy and minus stressors. And we've covered 5 other senses so far. We've covered the sight, we've covered smell, we've covered hearing, we've covered touch, we have covered taste, and today we're talking about the vestibular sense. So we are going to talk about how changes in balance as well as changes in gravity and G-forces can influence our bloating. Okay, so G-forces, remember that vestibular sense is what we get from our semicircular canals as well as our joints, our ankles, our hips, our neck, and our jaw. And these things can influence how we sense gravity and the forces that gravity places on us. So when we think about bloating, we think about bloating in the upper part of the belly and the lower part of the belly. And because there is this relationship between our sense of balance and the hips, we can actually see that bloating, especially in the lower part of the gut, can be a stressor on your vestibular system. Now, that's a little backwards, but there is cases because of the hips and because of how bloating can put pressure on not just your intestines, but also the muscles that hold your pelvis together and your muscles that allow your legs to move, like your iliopsoas, so your long hip flexors, or even your piriformis, the muscles that allow your hips to turn in and out. When there is bloating or inflammation in your gut, then these muscles actually just say, ew, inflammation, and start weakening. Basically, they want to kind of pull away from the pelvis. And so chronic bloating in the lower part of the gut, chronic bloating and pain in the lower part of the gut can lead to chronic hip issues. I see a lot of sprained hips in my office. It's not a common diagnosis when you're working in the medical community or in the PT community, but I see it where that hip just kind of separates from the sacrum, and in doing so, that makes the hip kind of very wiggly, and that extra mobility causes a lot of hip pain and going up into the back. So one of the things you have to do is you have to get rid of that lower body bloating. So can the vestibular system provide good energy into that? Well, we've kind of talked about it a little bit earlier. We talked about it in terms of float tanks and isolation tanks. The fact that if you can get rid of the excess pressure of gravity by either swimming or being in an isolation tank, what happens is that is one less stressor on your body, and the quietness of those spaces provides you a good brain gut connection. We're back on that gut-brain axis. Soothing vestibular components can actually heal gut issues because there's no longer gravity pulling down. You are floating. And there's also less brain stuff going on. Now, we can also kind of hijack that and say that, well, if isolation tanks and floating is not your gig, we also know that for some people, riding on roller coasters or being on things that have G-forces is good energy in. And so even though structurally we think about that kind of pushing pressure on those intestines and actually increasing the bloating, if that makes life a lot less stressful for you because it brings you joy, then that is going to activate the gut-brain axis, which is going to allow you to produce more serotonin, which will then also help with your bloating and digestion. And last but not least, we can also think about G-forces and vestibular system in terms of providing pressure in certain ways that the body doesn't. And so it can actually break free, because we talked about yesterday the importance of colic and how little regions of the body can tighten up so that you actually have bloating. G-forces can actually force things through and help clear you out a little bit more. All right. I hope you are having a wonderful Halloween. I hope you have a costume and are socially distancing and wearing your mask. And if you're not handing out candy, I hope you are, or if you are going to get candy, or if you're handing out candy, I hope that you are having a wonderful time getting some good energy in. And I will see you here tomorrow, because tomorrow we're doing a really cool thing, something I encourage all of my patients to do, which relieves a lot of bloating that exists on the right side of the body. Join me for that. I'll see you here tomorrow. Take care. Oh, let's finish off with our deep breath. Deep breath for all the Halloween candy you're going to eat today. And release. Take care.